Welcome to Easy Piecy Quilts. I'm Julia Tiedemann, and today we're going to be doing a pattern called Perfectly Charming. I designed this pattern as a little extra simple pattern. In other words, it's on point, but it's a very simple pattern, and I think placing it on point gives it that extra something that makes this quilt special, even though it's simple. And this quilt can be made from one charm pack, the baby quilt size or crib quilt size, which that comes out to 38 by 45 inches. Or you can use a layer cake, which is a 10 by 10 inch square. And a layer cake can be cut in 4 sections to make charm squares. So that one layer cake will make a 76 inch by 89 inch twin quilt. So that makes fabric selection really easy. You can just pick a charm pack or a layer cake that you really like, add some background fabric that looks nice with it, and off you go. And this quilt can be made in an afternoon, the baby quilt. The baby quilt is, like I said, it's a rectangle size quilt. But I decided I wanted a table topper, and I wanted kind of a simple project that for fall that I could get done relatively quickly. So I took a row off of the crib quilt size to make it 38 by 38 inches square, and I made a fall table topper. And then I decorated my table with fabric pumpkins that I also have in the pattern for in my shop. And these pumpkins are really fun because they are 4 different sizes, and you can even use the little size as your name tags for your Thanksgiving table, which turns out to be really fun. And people can even take these home with them, and they do appreciate that. My guests really like to take those home, and that's a fun project. So we're going to make Perfectly Charming. This is a free pattern on my website. Please feel free to go download the pattern from easypiecyquilts.com and join along. Here is a charm pack, and they are sold as a pre-cut, and they're called pre-cuts because they are pre-cut into certain sizes. This quilt is perfect for the 5 by 5 pre-cuts. These are sometimes called charm packs, and they typically come in 42 fabrics associated with them. This is Let's Create by Echo Park for Riley Blake. And this quilt is made with 5 by 5 inch squares. And so here, I'm also going to show you that this quilt is on point. And so what that means is when you have a quilt that is put together in horizontal blocks, it is put together in rows like this, which we kind of know how to do that. So here would be a horizontal quilt. But when we put together an on point quilt, which I think gives it a little bit of extra and elevates the project, taking a simple project and making it look a little bit more complex, then what we do is we turn our squares. So our squares, instead of being like this, are turned like this. And then we have to have what are called side setting triangles in order to fill in these areas where we've turned our blocks. So the side setting triangles in this project are created by taking a square, and the directions or the pattern online, the free download will tell you all the dimensions of the different squares that you need. So this These side setting triangles start out as a square, and then you're going to take your ruler and you're going to cut from corner to corner this way, and then you're going to turn your ruler and cut from corner to corner this way. And that's going to give you your side setting triangles. You're going to have 4 corner triangles, and those are also made out of squares. But on those squares, you're only going to cut in one direction using your ruler from corner to corner once. So now you have your smaller triangles, you've got your bigger triangles, and we'll start setting up this quilt. So you put your little corner there, and then you'll have this side setting triangle will go here. This one will go here. And then you'll have them on these sides as well. I'm just going to set up a small sample here. And then so you can see that it still makes a rectangle or a square quilt top. But your fabrics are just turned in a different direction. And you'll just keep going down your rows. Just like that. Now, when you put these together, you can't sew like this anymore. You can't sew in a horizontal line. So your quilt rows go from this to this. See the line this way? There's a line this way, and there's a line this way. And we'll go over that a little bit more up on the quilt wall as to how to sew these together. But I just wanted to give you a quick tutorial about the on-point quilt because I think it adds so much to an easy project, and I think you'll really enjoy the way it turns out. So here I have the fall table topper pieced. I've got all of this section pieced on point, but I left a couple of rows so that we could do them together. I thought that that might help visually with how to put this together. So we talked about before, when you're piecing an on point quilt top, the rows are like this. So you can start to see the rows this way. This is just a row that I have put together that's not been sewn into the quilt top yet. But you can see on this that when you sew this row, you line up the 90-degree angles of the square and the triangle. And so you will have this all be even all the way down till you get to this 90-degree angle of the triangle and the square, and that's going to be even there all the way down. You'll see there's a dog ear at the top of this part of the triangle. That is what you want, because when you join your rows together, you will end up with a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance for your binding so that the top of that square doesn't get cut off in your binding, and you'll have a nice point there. So that is why you want your side setting triangle a little bit longer than that. That is normal. That's what you want when you're putting these together. So here's this row. We're going to put this row together exactly the same as I did this one, except it's just a little shorter. The rows get longer towards the middle and then shorter again as you go toward the opposite point of the square. This happens to be a square quilt top. So all you're going to do is take this piece and this piece. You're going to line your 90-degree angle up. You're going to see that there is a little extra on the top of that. That's okay. That's what you want. You're going to sew down the side, And then once you get that done, you're going to line these two pieces up. So here, so here, so here, and then you'll end up with the exact row that you have here. The only difference, this is the last row. So you'll do the same thing. See how you have your little extra piece of your side setting triangle here and here. You're going to line these 90 degrees up and you'll have this row done. And the very last step is to add your corner. Now, in order to add your corner and make sure that it is centered, what I do is I take this block and I fold it in half, and you will crease it, and you'll have a little crease, and that'll be right in the center of that block. And of course, you'll have these side setting triangles on there, but it's not going to affect anything. You still fold it in half and get your middle. And then I take this corner triangle and I fold it in half too, crease it. You'll have a little crease there. And that way, when I line that up, I'll line up my creases. I know when I sew this seam across here that it will be set right in the middle. And then when I fold that out, it'll be a nice point there. So I'll go ahead and sew these rows, and then we'll fold this onto this and attach that. And now these rows, what you're going to do is you're just going to fold one on top of the other, and you're going to sew from here up to here. And it's going to feel weird to sew a triangle right here when you're sewing the quilt top together to a block. But that is the way it's supposed to be, because when you roll it back out, it will be even with the top. So the other thing that I do when I press anything, there's two things that you can do. You can, and what we're trying to do is nest these corners. My corners are lined up, and that's really easy to do if you nest seams. So you can do it one of two ways. In the pattern, I talk about pressing all the seams this way and then pressing all these seams this way and so on down the quilt top. And that's perfectly fine. I don't tend to remember what I pressed my seam or which direction I pressed my last row, and then I have to go feel, and then I have to go think about it. So when you have an every other block, or even if you have sashing, which we can go into on another quilt, but if you pick a block to press towards, then if you press toward the background block or the universal fabric block, then what you know is that all the seams will be going towards that block and away from these blocks. And if they're alternating, then you always know that your seams are going to nest. So you can see on this row, all my seams are away from the block, the featured block that we use the charm pack for. So when we put our seams together here, all those seams are going in the opposite directions, and they're going to nest, and it's going to be really easy to find where your corners are. So that is also another little tip to make this go a little easier and a little faster. So I'm going to go ahead and put these two rows together. I will press that. I'll add this row. We'll add the little cap, and then I'm going to add this whole section to this rest of the quilt top, and we will have our little table topper complete. The first quilt that I did with this pattern is on the website, the page that you go to download the quilt pattern. And that quilt I no longer have. That quilt went to a little baby named Sylvie. One of the girls at work had a baby, and this is my go-to quilt for babies. It's very simple, it's very usable, and it's easy to whip up. This was my baby version that I made. I did little bees and butterfly quilting on it, which I thought was really sweet and went really well with this basin feed sack charm pack. And you'll notice that this is a rectangle quilt, the baby quilt is. The table topper is not explicitly shown in the pattern, but all I did to get the table topper was I took off this row of charm squares. And so when you remove that one row, then you'll get the square table topper. And here is the fall table topper with Hello Fall fabric. And I just did a leaf design quilting on the top of this pattern. So I thought that went nicely with the fall design. So this is also an easy project for you to do on your home sewing machine. You could easily do straight stitching, use your walking foot to compensate for the layers. And it would look beautiful just with straight stitching on a home sewing machine as well. So the size of this kind of lends itself a little better to doing that. And this is also a great project for a beginner quilter or somebody that you think might be interested in trying quilting. It's a free pattern. It's a relatively easy design. The picking out the fabric will be easy, so that will make them feel successful in this project. And so if you know someone that would love to join our quilting community or you think might be a quilter, send this video to them or send them the link for the free pattern, and we can have one more person in our quilting community, which would be wonderful. The other cool thing you could do with the fabric on this pattern would be to take some memory fabric and make a baby quilt for that next generation. And that would be something that would be passed down and be so special for them to keep for their whole life. And the other thing is, especially with the table topper, it's really a great way to change out your seasons for your home. So I've done a fall table topper, but I just got some fabric in the mail from Riley Blake, Hometown Holiday, and I'm looking forward to making my Christmas table topper already now. So if you would like to find the pumpkin pattern that we talked about earlier, or I've also got a link to the PDF download that is free on my website in the description box below. And I've also put together some kits, some fabric kits, including the Hello Fall fabric that I used in my table topper. There's not very many of these, and this fabric is out of print, so they may go fast, just warning. But I've got this put together with the binding fabric that I used, as well as the background fabric, and you will get that with the paper pattern included in your kit. So those will also be linked in the description box below. So thank you so much. I've really enjoyed having you at Easy Peasy Quilts, and until next time, happy quilting.